over here. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. So delighted to have you here today. And all right, I think we are live on Instagram as well. Bravo. Always a special treat when that works out. Right?
Exactly.
Tech guys cooperating. They don't make it easy. It's not like just push one button. Now you have to push like 4, right? And coordinate it. So anyway, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you're having a great week. And I am delighted to be here with you today. And today we are going to be talking about actually one of my favorite topics, and that is really taking a look at women and midlife, and specifically how we can best support women in midlife, specifically around fitness and maintaining that muscle, that coveted muscle, right, Cindy?
Exactly.
Boy, oh boy. I do everything in my power to maintain that muscle, and it definitely takes some effort, right? At a certain
point. And it's very true that you use it or lose it. That is a very true statement.
That is for sure. So, all right, everybody, welcome. Those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the Live with Lesli show. I am Lesli Bitel, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today. So if you are a practitioner and you are really wanting to better support your clients, specifically your female clients in midlife, you are definitely not alone. And I think you'll really get a ton of value from today's show. So many health professionals face challenges in providing actual science-based guidelines tailored to this unique demographic. So that's what we're going to dig in today. We are going to be chatting with the wonderful Dr. Cindy Dallow. And Cindy is from Midlife Food and Fitness. Yes. And we're going to be chatting about how to best support your clients in midlife, specifically the female clients. So welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to chat with you today. So just to kind of give you guys an overview of what you're going to take away from today's live stream, we are going to talk specifically about the nutritional needs of women during midlife transitions, science-based strategies to promote strength and fitness without resorting to restrictive diets, how to navigate common misconceptions and myths surrounding nutrition for women in midlife, tips for incorporating evidence-based nutrition advice into your practice, and effective approaches for empowering women to prioritize their health and well-being during midlife. And again, welcome. I am Lesli Bitel. For those of you that don't know me, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. And I am a practice growth expert and mentor, specifically for health pros in private practice. And what I do is I help my clients to attract more right fit clients into their world, sell more programs, and ultimately grow a profitable practice while integrating multiple streams of income into their models. So with that little bit of background, let's jump in, shall we, Cindy?
Sure.
Right. So, I thought it would be interesting, instead of me reading your bio, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up where you are today?
Sure. So I started off back in the mid-'80s. That'll kind of date me a little bit there, as a clinical dietitian in a small hospital in northern Maine, and then moved to Colorado. And I've been in Colorado ever since. That was 1988 when I moved here, and worked as a clinical and cardiac dietitian there for quite a while before going back to grad school. Because honestly, I was doing a lot of weight management, outpatient counseling, and became frustrated with seeing people go on diets, losing weight, regaining. And I just became frustrated with that and wanted to learn more. So I went back for my doctorate at Colorado State University and ended up doing a research project on physical activity with large size women. And along the way, that was in the late 90s, became pretty entrenched in the health at every size movement, which was pretty new at that time, and actually sat on the committee that came up with that coined that term, health at every size. And became also interested in intuitive eating, became a certified intuitive eating counselor. And after leaving grad school and becoming a mom later in life, I decided to open a private practice and actually hired Leslie, and she helped me kind of plan things out and figure out what I needed to do. And she was extremely helpful. And then, yeah, so since then I've had my own private practice. It was kind of part-time for a while, but until my kids were launched, as they say. And then I started putting more time into my private practice. And along the way, I was also working as an adjunct professor at University of Northern Colorado. As it turned out, I still have my private practice working mostly with women, but my husband and I, in the meantime, decided to start a side business, coaching triathletes, because we were doing triathlons quite a bit and we'd been runners for many years. So we decided to open a business where we coach and train triathletes. So I have two businesses, the one with the women in midlife, and then also the triathlon coaching company. So it keeps me pretty busy.
I would say very, very busy. Like you're
Yes.
juggling a lot.
Yeah. But it's all
All
good.
right,
It's all good.
it's all good. I love it. I don't think I knew you lived in Maine. Now,
Yeah, for a short time. What's that?
are you from Maine?
No, I'm actually from Kansas, but
Oh,
I was finishing my master's and needed at the time, A&D, which was ADA at the time,
yeah.
required a 6-month work experience to get your RD. And so I found one in Caribou, Maine, way at
Okay.
the top of Maine. If anybody's from Maine out there, I love Maine. Lived in Caribou for 3 years.
Okay.
And in my work experience became an RD, and that was in 1984 to 87, 8, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I got my RD and finished my job there as a clinical dietitian, and then moved to Colorado because I got a job in Greeley, Colorado as a cardiac dietitian there. And I've just stayed in Colorado ever since. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. I love it. All right. Well, let's dig into the specific nutritional needs that we need to be cognizant of with women, midlife, and beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different time of life for women, and some of the needs that we have. I'm 63, so I'm I even laugh sometimes. Am I still midlife, or am I past midlife? I don't know.
You
So,
Close enough, right? Close enough.
right, exactly right. I mean, our nutritional needs are similar to when we were young. I mean, we still need to make sure we're getting all the vitamins and minerals that we need for good health and um, physical activity and things like that. But after midlife, women start to approach menopause. So there's that perimenopausal time, and there's no definition for midlife, but I'm guessing 45 on, I guess, ish.
Sounds
um,
right.
yeah. So it includes perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause. And so I try to stay on top of the research as much as I can, but as we all know, it's ever evolving. I guess the main things that I look for or work with, because heart disease becomes a bigger risk during and after menopause. So that's always one that, and being a former cardiac dietitian, it's always one that I, feel strongly about in terms of um, eating to prevent heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. Those are and cancer, really. Those are all the kind of the big chronic conditions that women are at higher risk for at this time in life. And so I provide, nutrition counseling, both individual and group, where we focus on healthy eating for prevention of all of those things, but and also osteoporosis, I should mention. And the other issue that I'm really very passionate about is preventing the loss of muscle mass, which supposedly starts around age 40, and it's called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. And so I've become pretty interested in helping women maintain muscle mass, or at least slow down the loss of muscle mass, and through strength training and good nutrition. So that's a big part of what I do. And then the other thing too, as you know, is a lot of women in midlife really start to reevaluate dieting and body image, and still struggle with those issues. They don't really go away, but I find a lot of the women that I work with now are wanting to not diet anymore, and are more interested in acceptance, or kind of using that health at every size model. So those are the main issues that I work with women in this age group.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
goodness, right? That,
Yes. Yeah.
finally at a certain age, we start to move away from that chronic dieting routine.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, right?
It's such a negative space, and it brings so many women down. And I've been there. I mean, I think all of us probably have experienced some degree of it. And you can't really live in this society without, constantly hearing those and seeing those messages that women have to be thin and beautiful and all these things. And it's not in my mind, at least, it's not a thing where you can stop and tomorrow wake up and like, oh, I love my body, and it's kind of a constant thing. And that is one thing I also do with women is kind of help them in that process of learning to accept their bodies the way they are. And still doing whatever you can to be leaner, stronger, and things like that, but maybe letting go of that dream of getting back to where we were, body shape and size wise, when we were in our 20s. And that's another big change that happens with women going through perimenopause and menopause, is seeing lots of body changes and just dealing with that. So yeah.
Pretty significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, in terms of the specific nutritional needs, so can you speak specifically to the protein needs?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So because the rate of muscle loss starts to go up, nobody knows the actual age, but probably around age 40, we lose about 3% of our muscle mass every decade. And that's significant. And we become weaker and frailer. And that's the number one reason women go into nursing homes, is becoming weak and frail, and they're not able to, open a jar of, mayonnaise or whatever.
Right.
They're not able to get the groceries from the car to the kitchen. They're not able to get themselves off the floor. Those kinds of things. So we lose muscle mass. And the most important way to prevent that is with strength training, which has become pretty popular. And I not to brag, but I mean, I've been interested in this for a long, long time. And so protein becomes really important. And even though strength training, you can't prevent muscle loss just by increasing your protein intake. And I think there is some myths out there around that. You have to actually use your muscle, to prevent that. But so the protein needs, the RDA. There's some protein researchers who have questioned whether that the RDA is still relevant anymore. As dietitians know, the RDA for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. But the research is showing that we really need more than that. And I try to follow it as closely as I can. And I know there's some debate out there about how much, but from what I've read and the experts that I follow, I believe it's now between 1.2 and 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And obviously, where where you would fall between that 1.2 and 1.7 depends also on your activity level
Okay.
and what kind of what you're doing in terms of physical activity and strength training. I know there's some people out there who recommend as high as 2 grams per kilogram, but from what I've read in the research and the experts I've talked to, it's not necessary to go that high. And I will say, I do a lot of individual nutrition counseling right now, and
Mhm.
I have a lot of women who tell me that, I can't eat that much protein. I just can't do that. And
Wow.
2 grams per kilogram is a lot.
Yeah.
So
I
I also
don't know, like how, yeah, I personally would really struggle with that. I know
I
I,
couldn't do it either. So what I usually use for most women who are beginners with strength training is between 1.2 and 1.5.
yeah,
And then if they're more advanced and they're doing some heavy duty strength training and or they're Ironman athletes or things like that, then might go upwards of the 1.7. But the research I've read, there's no benefit of going any further above that.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It
Yeah.
really does. So protein obviously is the main macronutrient that we're concerned with, right? In this
Yeah,
age.
I would say in terms of, well, definitely for muscle mass, protein is going to be the main one. However, you do have to make sure you're consuming enough calories for our body to utilize that protein. So if you're, really restricting your calories super low, I'm not sure it's going to be all used for muscle protein synthesis. In fact, if you're restricting too much, then that puts you in a calorie deficit, and that's where it gets a little tricky too with women trying to lose weight and build strength at the same time. And they really need to work with a dietitian to have that individualized.
We have a question here. Roxana, welcome. So happy to have you with us today. And she asked, would you please address the role of toxins and environmental exposures that might impact hormonal balance?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I will be honest, I am not an expert in that area at all. I mean, I've done a little bit of reading on that. I would have no doubt that toxins in our environment affect our hormones, but honestly, I don't know enough to say. So I'm sorry. That's just not an area that I follow the research in, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is some connection there. So yeah, because we have so many toxins in our environment now. I mean, I think the body's is, we've got our defense systems to ward that off, but I'm just not familiar with that
Yeah,
research.
including
Sorry.
mold. I mean,
Excellent question.
so many people, struggle with mold toxicity nowadays.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. And just
so,
all the chemicals in our environment now. I mean,
right.
there are a lot. So I would have no doubt that it affects hormones, but I just don't know enough to say confidently. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So we talked a little bit about the, like kind of more of an updated recommendation in terms of protein
Mhm.
allocation, which really does make a ton of sense. So you're saying, I think you said 1.2.
Between 1.2 and 1.7 is a range, and then you would narrow that down based on your activity level. If you're just starting off with strength training, probably down near the 1.2. But I know some women who are doing pretty heavy exercise and they could go upward, toward the higher end. I know, and also for endurance athletes, they need the higher end as well. So
Right.
it really needs to be individualized. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Rakshana says, yes, I live in Florida and definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got their fair share in Florida, right?
Yeah, any humid environment, I think, would have quite a bit of mold.
Yeah, any humid environment for sure. And I would just add to that anywhere where there's running water.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah,
high chance of, leaks. I mean, I think I could write a book on this particular topic in all honesty.
really.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've been through the full gamut there. And it really is extraordinarily challenging.
Wow, that's
So,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, kind of long story short is I didn't realize that we had mold in our house. And
Wow.
even back in the day when I lived in a high rise in Chicago, right? Very, very moldy. I had really strange symptoms that were unexplainable, at least to mainstream
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that just kind of dragged on, for a long time. And then I had my son, and lo and behold, he had many of those same symptoms. So,
Oh.
yeah, so and interestingly, that was my foray into functional nutrition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, so definitely, I guess the moral to the story is definitely in humid places, but it unfortunately, if you look at the statistics, with just in the United States, I mean, a huge percentage of homes in the U.S. have mold, like lots
Wow.
of it, and lots of toxic mold. So
Wow.
definitely, and I think because I have experience with that, like personal experience, I hear a lot about it. You
Yeah,
know,
you probably, yeah. I live in Colorado and it is so dry here. I never hear about it, honestly, here. So we have our
okay,
own issues, that's for sure. But mold,
yeah.
I don't think is one. I have not heard that much about it here, and I think it's
Well,
probably
you
because
could though.
it's
I
so
mean,
dry.
yeah, but you get snow, right?
Oh, well, that's true. Oh gosh, yes. I
Snow
have a ton.
anytime.
I'm looking at snow right now.
Yeah, I mean, you get leaks through the roofs, right?
Right. Right.
Attic spaces not ventilated,
Oh, I'm
but
sure it happens. It's just not something that I hear about that
you
much.
don't
Yeah.
have, I don't think you guys have a lot of basements, do you?
No, that's true.
Because
Especially up
I
in the
will say
mountains, we
that's
don't have any. Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
our Salida place, we don't have a basement, which is really,
Yeah.
really good because
Yeah.
that causes a
Yeah.
whole issue. So anyway, mold, great topic, very, very difficult to deal with. Even when you find out that's what your
Mhm.
problem is,
Mhm.
easier said than done, getting rid of it. It's
Mhm.
quite an ordeal. All
Hmm.
right. So, nonetheless, and it does impact every body system and definitely wreaks havoc with hormones
Oh, I bet it does. I
in
I
a
do.
huge way.
I would have no doubt. Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about let's move into strength training. All right, so we've defined how much protein is, kind of like the updated, recommendations.
Mhm.
What about strength training in midlife? Why is this so very important?
Excellent question. Well, some of the more recent research on strength training shows that it also can help stabilize, well, I should say, helps prevent diabetes because our muscle cells handle glucose and actually help to regulate our blood sugar. So, without getting into like not that I completely understand the whole process myself, but muscle is kind of, I don't know if it's considered an endocrine organ, but it helps us handle blood spikes in blood sugar better. And so some of the studies have been pretty interesting where they put people on strength training programs and their blood sugars become much better controlled.
Mhm.
So I never in my previous years as a cardiac dietitian ever ever had even I don't we didn't know this, but to think that, strength training might help prevent or manage diabetes. And that's huge because,
Mhm.
type 2 diabetes is a very common condition, as we all know. And the data is also showing that strength training also helps to lower the risk for heart disease. So, it used to be only cardiorespiratory fitness, cardiovascular fitness, or aerobic exercise. We've all been told, walking and doing some type of aerobic exercise is what we need to do to prevent heart disease. And now the research is showing that strength training and being stronger and having stronger muscles also plays a role with preventing diabetes, heart disease. And there was one study that showed that it lowered the risk for cancer, certain forms of cancer.
Oh.
So, which and I don't know what the actual connection is there, but it does support our strength training can actually have effects on our gut microbiome, which, as we all know, then there's that connection there with cancer, certain forms of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, brain health, cognitive health. And so it's a I would say it's kind of a burgeoning area of research now, is looking at strength training. So I think it's fascinating, and it doesn't mean, stop aerobic exercise. You still need that, because we need
Yeah.
that for cardiovascular health. And so basically it means both.
You need both.
Do you need both? You need both. But the good news, I think, about strength training is you only need 2 days a week. And according to Stu Phillips at McMaster University, who's an expert in this area, he's somebody that I follow. He is on Instagram if you want to follow him. Stuart Phillips is his name. He does a lot of research in this area. And I actually interviewed him. And he said two to 3 times. So 2 times is the minimum that you need to see actual changes in strength. 3, you might get a small benefit from that, but you don't need to do any more than that. So from a time standpoint, I think that's helpful to know. You don't have to be at the gym all the time. You don't have to do this. You don't have to have 6-pack abs. You don't have to do all of that, but we do need to do some strength training, which I would say most women don't do.
Oh my goodness, right?
Right. Because, I'm sure for you too, when I was growing up and even in college, I thought of weightlifting and all that was for, the bodybuilders and the people who wanted those big muscles. There wasn't anything that I was, a runner, triathlete. I'm like, I don't need to do any of that. And now it's like, I do actually.
I actually can honestly say that, well, I have an undergrad in exercise physiology, so there is that, right?
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And so I do remember, and this is kind of funny thinking back, but yeah, I do remember being in the weightlifting club in college.
Really? Cool.
Which was pretty funny, because I remember my roommate and I, we were the only females in this
Good
little
for
club.
you. That's
And we were
awesome.
like,
Good for you. Excuse my dog. Sorry.
oh yeah, no worries. We were working out with, all the big burly guys that were, really doing the heavy training.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I guess you could say I was an early adopter when it came to strength.
There you go.
I was not afraid at all of muscle.
Good.
But I, obviously have run across many, many, many women in my day.
Yeah.
Where they're really, really super stuck on just burning calories, right? Getting on and just, the treadmill, and again, it's all good, right? It's like, you got to get some of the cardio in. In fact, I have to really try to get the cardio in, because I prefer strength.
Strength. Yeah. See, I come from kind of the opposite background, being kind of a longtime marathon runner, and I love running. I love, biking and triathlon and all of that. So it took me a while to come around to the idea of strength training and to prioritize it, because, I never thought it was that important. And now I can't imagine my life without doing it. I still do the aerobic stuff, but I've been doing strength training consistently now for a year, and I've seen changes in my strength. I've already gone up, on the weights that I've been doing, and I feel the difference. I feel stronger. I think I look stronger. And it's just a good feeling. It's good to know that as I get older, that I'm having just seen my mother in a nursing home, and seeing her body
Mm.
deteriorate, that was also a motivator for me too. But it's a good feeling to think that I'm not likely to end up like that.
Oh,
So, but
gosh.
you got to keep it up. You can't just do a 6-week training
No.
program and then call it good.
Well,
You truly use it or lose it.
it really is a way of life. Looks like we got some questions. I'm not sure if you can comment on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can actually. I'm not an expert on this topic, but I have read that, and I follow somebody that I could actually recommend that would be able to answer this probably a lot better. But from what I have read and learned from, I think her name is Jen Gunter on Instagram. She's an OBGYN,
Okay.
that the bioidentical hormone replacement is not as good as the real thing. And I
Mm.
know I have friends who've tried it. And I thought in the beginning, like, this sounds great. It really does. But from what I've read, and learned from some experts in the field, that it is not as good as the real thing. So
In terms of what?
those are my thoughts. What's that?
It's not as good as in terms of
As
efficacy.
Yeah, in
Okay.
terms of efficacy, and terms of, having the same benefits as the real hormones.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
um, it's Jen Gunter. She has a, blog called The Vagenda, Vagenda. It's on Substack. She's on Instagram, and I can't remember her handle, but she's very, very opinionated on that subject, but she backs it up with all the science.
Okay.
So I just learned that from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And what about adding resistance training?
Well, that is strength training. That's the
Yes.
same thing. Same thing. So resistance strength training, same thing. So yeah, extremely important, as we've talked about, because it helps. It also helps to reduce the loss of bone density as well. It helps with stronger bones. Um, it helps to lower the risk for heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Just makes you stronger. You're able to do more things,
Mhm.
and you're less likely to end up in a nursing home. You're more likely to stay independent as you get older. So it's
Mhm.
really important for women because, as I mentioned earlier, most women become pretty weak and frail. And when I used to work in cardiac rehab, I remember seeing that. I remember seeing women coming in with heart disease who could barely do the arm ergometer. I mean, they had no strength at all. But it's not really their fault, in the sense that they didn't know what we know now. And so there's a lot more that's known now about the benefits of strength or resistance training. It's really the same thing.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And then would TRX, Pilates, or yoga be an effective
Excellent.
strength training?
Yeah,
Ex-
that's an excellent question. Definitely TRX. Oh gosh, I use TRX a lot,
Yeah.
and Pilates too. Yoga, it depends on, and I'm
Yeah.
not an expert on yoga, but it can be, depends on how, obviously it depends on how you're doing the yoga, but you have to apply resistance to the muscle for it to become stronger. So if you're doing more of a stretching kind of yoga, I don't think you'd get the strength training benefits. But I know there are some forms of yoga, or people that add in exercises where they're applying some resistance to the muscle.
Mhm.
Then they would. But I think Pilates and TRX for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pilates is great.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Pilates for sure. Uh,
Stuart Phillips. Sorry, I just read
Go
the
ahead.
question.
Yes. Stuart, what?
Stuart Phillips.
Okay. Is that with a
He's
PH?
uh
Philli?
yes, Phillips,
Yeah.
Phillips, and
Okay.
Stuart, Stuart.
Okay. Cool.
He's a professor at McMaster University. He also has quite a few YouTube videos, so you could actually, I'll just look up Stuart Phillips on YouTube.
Okay.
Uh, but very, very, he does the research on strength training, and is a full professor with all kinds of, accolades. And he is a former, uh, I know he's a former rugby player, but also weightlifter. He's really into weightlifting, but I like his take on the science. I like he's very sensible and
Mhm.
reasonable. So yeah, you'll have to
So,
check him
all
out.
right. So the practicalities twice a
Yes.
week. All
Yeah.
right. So
Yes.
that mean full body twice a week or up
Well,
one day, lower body the other day?
yeah, ideally you want to, hit the large muscle groups
Yeah.
twice a week. So whatever way that works for you, the better.
Yeah.
And I want to mention there's a kind of a debate, at least on Instagram, about whether women need to lift heavy
Ooh,
or light weights. That's a big
all right.
thing.
What are your
Um,
thoughts?
I just the research I've looked at, and I've read a lot of the research, and women do not need to lift heavy to improve their strength. You can if you want to, and I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers here if you're one of the heavy um, lifters out there, but to just gain strength, if that's your goal, and
Mhm.
a lot of women I work with have no desire to be in the gym and like be able to do 50 pull-ups or 50 push-ups or anything like that. They just want to be strong enough to be healthy
Right.
and to stay out of a nursing home. They do not need to lift heavy weights to do that. There have been numerous studies where postmenopausal women have been put on strength training programs and have improved their strength beautifully within 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. And they
Okay.
did it with light weights and more reps.
Hmm.
If you want to lift heavy and you're kind of into, which I think is cool, I see these women in their 60s and 70s and they're bench pressing and they're doing, chin ups and all this heavy stuff and they love it. Go for it. Do the heavy weights, do all of that. It's good for you. It's definitely good for you as long as you've got the right form though, because it's also the
You have
thing
to
with lifting heavy, you risk injury. You can really get injured that way. But if you know what you're doing and you have a coach, which I'd highly recommend, is hiring somebody who knows what they're talking about, a qualified strength coach. And there's a lot of them out there. There's a company called Fit Bliss that is really good, fitbliss.com. I'm not employed by them or anything, but
okay.
I know that I know people who work for them, and they're very science based. They're really good. So that's one place. I also will be offering strength training programs too. But the thing is to know what your goals are. Know what are you wanting out of this? Are you wanting the bare minimum to be healthy, which is just fine? Or if you're, hey man, I'd really like to do chin ups and push ups and bench press and all of that kind of stuff. Cool. But then have a coach who really knows how to create a program for you safely that
Yeah.
can get you where you want to be. But you will, if you're on Instagram, you will see, hear people out there saying that women have to lift heavy weights, and research does not bear that out.
Okay. I love that. So the opposite can be extremely helpful, which
Yes.
is
Just
light,
and
higher.
light weights, more reps, especially in the beginning. If you're just starting with strength training, you definitely don't want to go in and start trying to lift these super heavy weights because that's almost guaranteeing a back injury or a shoulder injury, and then you're out for a while. So start with very light weights and more reps, and then gradually increase. But you don't have to keep going until you're, doing these super heavy weights unless you want to.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love it. And I love TRX.
I do
Just
too. I do too. It's a very
I
practical
I
thing, I
would
think.
really like to get, I don't have, it's something I'd like to put in my home.
Yeah.
I think it'd be too difficult, but
No, it's
obviously
not hard at all. We had one for a long time, and then, We ended up taking it down because I think we were changing bedrooms at the time. It was in another house I lived in. Now I just use it at the gym, but you can easily hook one up at home.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Have you seen differences in the ability to gain muscle within different ethnicities?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Um,
Hmm.
no, I haven't. That would be, I don't even know if there's research on that yet. Because all this research I've seen, uh, I was paying attention more to the age than I was ethnicity. That's an excellent question.
Yeah,
You have a
really,
lot don't say sorry. You have really good questions.
I wonder.
Um,
My
I
home,
have not. I have not, but
I
that
don't know the answer to that either, but I do know, like, if you've done your own genetics, most of the genetic tests will kind of tell you if, like, I know for me, um, my superpower is endurance, right? So someone like me, it's a little harder to put on muscle.
see, that's funny because I'm actually, I think the opposite, even though I'm more into, endurance. I
Isn't that
do,
interesting?
Ironman triathlons. I've had people tell me, and I don't know why they know this, but I've had people tell me, "You would be a good, like, power lifter because you put muscle on." So,
Right.
like, so funny, we're like the
Yeah,
opposite, but
total opposite. And yet, yeah, because
and then
I,
we do, yeah.
you know, Pilates and, a little bit more oriented around the strength, and I always have.
It is
Um,
harder for women to gain muscle, and that's why, a lot of women who are afraid of building big muscles, I'm like, "Don't be afraid," very few women are gonna build big muscles, and so
very
it's probably not gonna happen anyway. Um, some women can put muscle on pretty easy, but I would say the majority of women don't, so that's not gonna be an issue.
yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on supplements?
Which kind or for
Or,
what?
like maybe creatinine,
Oh, that's yes.
any,
Yes.
supplementing, to help
Yes.
maintain muscle and or, potentially I don't know what the research says, but what are your thoughts?
I think really for muscle building, for muscle strength, the only supplement that I recommend is creatinine
Okay,
because there is solid research behind showing that you can build muscle easier and maintain it easier. And it also has an effect on body composition. So it's easier to lose fat and gain muscle if you're taking creatine. And that's also kind of a new area of research. And it's one that actually surprised me because in general, I am not a supplement person. Um, and so the research has to be pretty solid for me to ever recommend any
okay.
supplement. And it's there, And so what's recommended is about 5 grams per day. And there used to be a recommendation to do this kind of loading phase where you would start small and with creatine and then add more and more and more. But now the experts that I've been listening to say, I just don't worry about that. Just start taking 5 grams a day. And that's what I do. I get it off of Amazon. I don't think you have to buy any fancy brand or anything. Creatine monohydrate is just the same no matter where you get it. I again just buy a very generic bag from I just get it off of Amazon and it's a white powder and you put it in you can put it in anything, but I just put it in water and drink that and I've noticed a difference.
Huh,
So
have you really? Okay.
yes. Yeah, there's also some research looking at the effect of creatine on brain
Yes,
or cognitive function.
yes, I've heard
And
that.
yeah, and seeing some improvements in memory and cognitive function in people, I think, over the age of 50. So that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's another reason to take creatine. So yeah, that is one supplement I would recommend. One that's popular that I would not recommend at all is branched chain amino acids. That, I mean, that is absolutely total waste of money.
Huh.
And I can talk about that if you want to. So,
Yeah, why don't you? Yeah, I'd like to. Well, let's see. Yeah,
unless there's other questions.
let's see. I actually am rather curious because I don't
Sure,
know a lot about that.
sure.
Yeah, maybe just why is that not recommended?
Well, there's a trend amongst weightlifters and bodybuilders out there to take what are called branched chain amino acids. And there are three branched chain amino acids: leucine, isoleucine, and lysine. Those are three of the branched chain, what we call BCAAs. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know how the trend got started, but it did. And you can see these big, you know, jars of BCAA supplements. Well, first of all, you can get branched chain amino acids in food very easily. They're in any good protein source, meat, dairy. There's even branched chain amino acids in plant protein, so it's very easy to get in food. There's just absolutely no reason to supplement it at all. However, I think the reason why it got started is because leucine, which is one of the branched chain amino acids, um, has been shown in a lot of studies to be the trigger for muscle protein synthesis. And muscle protein synthesis is MPS, is the process that occurs when we build muscle. You have to have leucine to trigger that process. So that is probably why. However, leucine competes with the other branched chain amino acids. And so if you're taking all three of them, you're going to reduce the ability of leucine to trigger the process because you're taking all three in a large amount.
Okay.
And you need if you're going to supplement any of those, you really should be supplementing with leucine, not all three branched chain amino acids. And there have been numerous studies showing that supplementing with the branched chain amino acids has absolutely no effect on muscle building. So
Hmm,
it's a total waste of money.
okay.
Now, so then the question is, well, should we be taking leucine? And there are some people who recommend taking leucine by itself. I don't recommend that because if you're getting adequate protein, if you're getting between 1.2 and 1.7 grams per kilogram, you will get plenty of leucine. More is not better with leucine. So it's not like, well, I just need, if I take more leucine, I'll build more muscle. It doesn't work that way. So you just have to get adequate amounts of leucine, ideally spread out through the day. That's kind of another um, recommendation with protein. Ideally, is to have it spread out through the day. But
Uh,
more importantly, is to get enough leucine. And if you're eating meat or dairy products, you will get plenty of leucine. And then the other thing is if you use whey protein is the highest source of leucine.
okay.
Okay. So whey protein, if you're using whey protein powder for shakes or whatever, you're getting plenty. For the vegans out there who don't take whey or use whey
Mhm.
protein, you can get leucine in pea protein, and I think there's some in soybean protein as well, but pea protein has almost as much as whey. Whey has the most, and
Okay.
then pea protein is the second highest source of leucine when it comes to protein powder. So you do need leucine. Um, but if you're eating and if you're meeting your protein needs, then you don't need to actually take leucine.
Okay.
So, but that's a big topic amongst a lot
Yeah,
of
that's fascinating. I was not up to speed on that.
yeah. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it's just like we all have our areas that we
Yeah.
follow and
Whey isolate or
our
whole
whole
whey?
it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters that much, honestly. I mean, you're going to get probably a little more leucine in the isolate, but who likes the taste of whey isolate? I don't know. You gotta look at the taste, I think as well. But if you have a whey isolate product that you like, yeah, go for it. That's fine. But I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. My husband makes our own yogurt, and when whey is the liquid that separates out, and so then we keep the actual whey liquid in a jar, and then you can put that in your smoothies, and that's just solid whey protein right there. So you can
Okay.
actually make your own.
That's so interesting.
You don't have to buy, expensive protein powder, but I know it's convenient too to have the protein powder, so that's fine too. So
Okay. Awesome. All right. Any final questions before we start to wrap up? Time absolutely flew by today, Cindy.
it did, yes.
That was an awesome topic here. I know I learned a lot, and based on all these questions, I think our audience did as well. Any kind of final words of wisdom that you want to impart with our audience today?
Just start incorporating some strength training in. Start small, start easy, whatever works for you, but prioritize it. If you don't make it a priority, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, figure out what works for you. I have little weights that I keep here by my desk because I'm on my computer all day long. And sometimes I just take a break and use my little dumbbells. You don't have to join a gym to do this. You can do a lot of this at home. And if you have questions or if you're interested in a group program, I will be offering one pretty soon. So you can contact me. But there's also others that are out there as well. But just start lifting.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Great. And your group program, is that going to be, are you going to be doing weights?
Yep.
Obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a strength training program that would be progressive. It's geared more toward beginners. It's called Power Up. I've already run it, and it was a blast. I had so much fun, and I got really good feedback. The women said they felt stronger and wanted to continue. So I'm kind of repackaging it, and it will be out there. It's on my website right now called Power Up. That's the name of the program, and my website is midlifefoodandfitness.com. I'm super excited about it. We're going to have the strength training plus nutrition, and have a kind of a community part where you can, learn from others and do this with other women, and some Zoom calls and things like that. So I want to make it as fun as possible.
Okay. And Cindy, what is your website?
Midlifefoodandfitness.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if I got this right.
I'm on Instagram too. You can find me at Dr. Cindy Dallow RD.
Okay. Yeah. Midlifefoodandfitness.com, right?
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I'll be updating it with more information on Power Up pretty soon.
Fantastic. All right, guys. And Dr. Cindy Dallow on Instagram, correct?
Right. Dr. Cindy Dallow RD. It's
RD. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So definitely check Cindy out there. Thank you so very much for joining me.
It was fun.
It was fun. Pleasure. And I really, this is such a great topic. And really, my hope is that everyone is feeling more inspired.
That's right. We want to be strong women, right? Get stronger, not smaller.
That's the key. So I'm, hopeful that everyone here is feeling more inspired to take action minimum twice a week, right? And that you're talking to your patients about this as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important. I think it really has a huge impact on health and wellness. I really do.
And just, feelings of, health and, just does nothing but good. So, all right. So I want to thank you again, Cindy. Really appreciate your time today. And thanks to our audience for joining us. And I really want to thank you for all your wonderful questions as well. So it really added a lot of flavor, shall we say, to our conversation today. So I really appreciate that. Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of your day. And I will look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.